right? It's the first time I'm meeting face to face. Anyway, my name is Lynn. I grew up here in Pueblo, moved away years ago, and we're retiring back to Pueblo. So my interest over every year when I've come home on vacation has been with the animals. I started as a volunteer at our little shelter up in the woods in Marquette, Michigan, which is on the shores of Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. When I started volunteering, we were killing 62% of the animals. We had an executive director who was ensnared in the old way of doing things. And, in 04, I decided to get on the board and try to make changes that way, and suggesting changes in current policy, which were not handled very well. Our big break came when she submitted her letter of resignation. December 1st was the end of November was her last day in 2006. December 1st, 2006, we went no-kill. And we are in open admission. We do the county impound, a much smaller organization than what you have here, but it can be done. It's implementing, we started making minor changes, like, no, just because we're getting a Great Dane in as an owner surrender, we're not going to kill them, because that's what we used to do. All of the big dogs would be killed. We instead fought with the leftover staff to get that dog a home. And then the staff member quit, so I was kind of fine with that. Yes, you have a lot of passionate people in this city, in this county. Your situation is different because of where the funding comes from the county government, city government. But you as voters can make a change by stating your voices. There is a financial upside to not killing animals. The previous speaker mentioned the lost revenue from all of those animals that they killed. We went back and tracked, and we lost almost $180,000 that last year that we killed animals just in adoption fees. By going no-kill, not only were we adopting left and right to the point now where we have to transfer in cats and dogs because we can't stay on top of the community's demand. And we're only a community of 20,000 people. But the flip side of going no-kill was the next year, once word got out and we spread the word in every shape of media we could, our donations and our fundraisers increased 61%. And that's what people need to understand. There's a financial end to no-kill, but there is a moral part of no-kill. And that is what David was talking about before, the trap-neuter release, the pet retention, the friendly adoptions, not judging people by the kind of vehicle they drive into the parking lot, having the adoptions go well, having pet retention experts on hand to, if you're having trouble with a newly adopted animal, call us, come see us. We'll help you try to figure out how to solve the problem. The puppy that was mentioned in the Facebook, 5 months old and food aggression, the animal would never have been euthanized for food aggression because in such a young dog, that's such an easy fix. Charlie is another thing. We have pit bulls that are we cannot place them with cats in the home or other dogs in the home, but we do to only pet homes. We rehome and adopt out cats with FIV, which is feline leukemia, horribly contagious. But they go to a home that knows the risks and will never have those cats interact with another cat to spread the disease. You have to put on your thinking hat when you work at a shelter saying, what can I do to get this dog or this cat a permanent home? And that's what you do. Nothing is cookie cutter. You have to look at individual needs of individual animals, and that's what the shelter here needs to focus on. What do we need to do? We've had some pretty crazy adoptions. and difficult dogs. We had a dog in the shelter for almost a full year, a huge pit bull with a disabled leg, horribly vicious with other dogs, but an absolute sweetheart with people. It took us a year to find him a home, and he did. And it was no big deal. He lived in the office with us and would regularly pass gas because that's what he would do. We've had cats. I've had cats come to the house for foster care. Cats who would hide under blankets, so nobody going to the shelter looking for a cat would even see them. The cat came home with me, and within a week, she was out of the covers, and the potential adopter came to my house to see the cat in a realistic situation and was adopted out from my house. We have adoption ambassador programs. Our fosters never need to take the animals back to the shelter for the adoption. They stay. I did 4 puppies back in September. All of them went to new homes from my house. And you see the animals in a more natural setting. Nothing is worse than being in a cage. And somebody was mentioning about dog walks, like one every day for 15 minutes. We have so many volunteers because our community loves us now. So many volunteers that come specifically to walk dogs. Our dogs are dead tired by the time we open our doors, that they just lay there and look at the potential adopters. It's difficult for me even at times to fully appreciate how far we've come in the last 10 years at UPAWS. We are a much smaller organization, but we had the same problems, just on a smaller scale. But now the people in our community talk about UPAWS as our shelter. And that's what you want. You want the people in the community to say, this is our shelter, and be proud of the work that they do. But it can be done. You just need to pool your resources, and maybe some heads need to roll. That's the easiest. That's what happened at Fremont. They got a new ED, and overnight they went no-kill. We got a new manager. Overnight we went no-kill. All it takes is saying to yourself, I'm not picking up the needle. Aggressive dog, and being transparent with your community. I use a shelter save rate that looks at every single animal that comes in the shelter. And of those animals, how many walked out on their own 4 feet? That's the measure of success. We get in aggressive dogs. And those dogs that would rather rip your face off than sit in your lap, yes, unfortunately, we have no place to put them. And they are euthanized. Cats, dogs come to us so badly injured that they're not going to live. And we euthanize them. So we do still pick up the needle, but it's like 1% of the animals. Last year, 1350 came in our door, and of them, 10 were euthanized. But they're euthanized for a damn good reason. Not at the whim of somebody who says this dog is aggressive. The dogs that have been mentioned here would have all been rehomed at UPAWS. And Michigan is trying to take the whole state no-kill, and we just have a few holdouts. And anyway, there is hope. You just all need to bring up your good suggestions.